Good morning, students. Welcome to Avyan IAS Academy. Today we will be taking up the topic of tenses, and we would be looking at tenses at a glance. So what are tenses? Tenses are changing the form of the verbs that we are using in the sentences according to its time usage. So, for example, what is the easiest way of understanding tenses is, for example, there is a verb do. The past, then it would be did and done. The change that we are making from do to did to done is what we call the tenses, or the change in the tenses. So there are three divisions according to which our tenses would run. They are the present tense, the past tense, and the future tense. Present tense, as you know, is talking about anything that is in the present, anything that is now. That is your present tense. The past tense is anything that has already happened. And the future tense would be talking about something that is about to happen. Okay, so these are the rough broader divisions of the tenses. Under this larger rubric of tenses, now we will be dealing with each one of the tenses one after the other. First, we will be talking about present tense. When we say about all the three tenses are divided into four parts again. The present tense would be divided into simple present. Example, I eat, he eats, or she eats. This is your simple present tense. This action is happening right now, right here. Or you can say, I learn, he learns, and she learns. Then we go over to the second part of the present tense, that is present continuous tense. So the present continuous tense would be how will we change a verb into the present continuous tense. For example, how we can change the same verb into the present continuous tense. For that, we will use the root of the verb and the ing. So we will say, I am eating. Right? This am is the be verb that is used as an addition to the root verb and the ing. So I am eating. What do we mean by this? It is an action which is continuing in the present, right? You are eating right now. But for the simple present tense, it could mean that I eat. For the sentence, you could say, I eat every day. It talks about anything that happens in form of a routine or something that is regularized to happen at a certain interval of time. But present continuous tense talks about something that is happening right now, that is, I am eating. The next that comes is present perfect tense. Present perfect. For example, present perfect tense talks about an action which has just been finished. Remember, although we are talking about it in the present tense, but it is still about the action which has just finished. For example, I have eaten. When you say I have eaten, it means you have just finished eating a while ago. The time lapse between when you are saying that you have eaten and when you have actually finished eating is very less. It is an action which has just been terminated. So another of it would be, you can also say I have just eaten. Whenever the word just is used in a sentence, it is an indicator that this is a sentence in the present perfect tense. That is, it talks about something which has just happened in the recent past, very recent. So recent that we will not consider it even as a past tense. The next comes is the present perfect continuous tense. The present perfect continuous tense. So in this tense we will have both the perfect and the continuous. So for the perfect part we will use the have, and for the continuous part we will use the ing of any root verb. For example, a sentence would come as I have been eating. So this is another addition of the be verb. Have, been, am, is, are, these are all considered as be verb, which comes in addition with the root verb and its ing form along with have. So the present perfect continuous means it would indicate towards the action which has been continuing for a certain point of time. That is, I have been eating for a while. To make the sentence even more clear, when you say I have been eating for a while, it means maybe you have been eating for 5 minutes, 10 minutes or 15 minutes and the action is still continuing. Remember that we are not talking about finishing the action. We are talking about the ongoing nature of the action. So that is all about your generally present tenses. So a quick recap of it. The present tense would be divided into 4 tenses again, that is simple present, present continuous, present perfect and present perfect continuous. The next tense that we would come to is past tense. Past tense again would be divided into 4, just like we did for the present tense. The first would be simple past. Simple past. For example, I ate, she ate, he ate. Example, this talks about action which has happened in the past. But remember something, we are not giving any proper or clear time reference. This action could have happened 2 days ago, could have happened 2 hours ago also. So we are leaving the time frame a lot more flexible. Time frame remains a lot more flexible. Okay, the next we will come to the present continuous tense, the past continuous tense. Past continuous. Past continuous would mean an action that was continuing in the past. For example, I For example, in the present tense, the sentence we took was I am eating. So this sentence, when it changes to past continuous tense, it becomes I was eating. It means it was an action. This would refer to that you were eating at a certain point of time in the past. I was eating. So that is what past continuous tense is about a continued action but in the past. Next, we talk about past perfect tense. Past perfect tense is generally used when there are two actions happening in the past, and we have to give a clear reference when there are two actions in the past, and we have to give a clear reference to which action is happening when. So pay quite a close attention to this. Generally, if you can write a sentence using just a simple past, do use that. But when there are two actions happening in the past almost simultaneously or one after the other, but in a very short lapse of time, we will use the past perfect tense. So for the past perfect tense, let us take this example and understand what it would look like. When we reached the station, the train had left. So as you can see, there are two actions happening when we reach the station. This is one part of the action, and the other part of the action is the train had left. This is another part of the action. However, when we look at it from a timeline, if we are drawing a timeline and if we are looking at it this way, for example, I am here now and I am narrating it from a perspective where I can see both the incidents. One is the train leaving and the other is we reaching the station. Other is reaching the station. So the one that is more in the past, that the train left first and then they arrived. So this was the first action that happened and this was the second action that happened. So to indicate towards the action which happened more in the past, that is to indicate the pastness of the past, we use the past perfect tense. That is, we are using the word had and the past tense, that is left, had, left. So this indicates the pastness of the past. And the other action is when we reached the station, this is the simple past. So pay very close attention to this, that we use the past perfect tense only when there are two actions or more than two actions that we are talking about. When there are more than two actions, we would of course have to maybe say it in more than one sentence. For example, I have seen him yesterday. I had seen him 5 years before. So you are talking about two things that were happening. You have seen him, and once, that is yesterday, that is also in the past, and also that you had seen him 5 years before to yesterday. So that is more to the past. that makes it the past perfect tense. So whenever we are trying to draw a timeline, anything that goes more in the past will refer to the past perfect tense, will refer to the had part, and the one that is just in the past, lesser in the past, would take the simple past tense. So remember, when we are using a past perfect tense, we are already utilizing two tenses. The past perfect is one of them and the simple past is the other of them. Pay quite close attention to this, because we often get corrections on this and often make people make a lot of error, and they use had even when you don't have to. So if your simple past tense is serving the purpose, there is no need of using a past perfect tense. The next tense that we would come to is past continuous. The past continuous. The past continuous tense would be talking about an action, past perfect continuous, sorry, an action that happened in the past and terminated in the past. For example, I had been working here for 10 years. So when you are talking about that you have been working in a particular place for 10 years, that would talk about the past perfect continuous. It might not always talk about the termination. I had been working here for 10 years, or if you leave the sentence open-ended, like I had been working here for 10 years, it does not talk about an end. But if you say that I had been working here for 10 years, which will come to an end tomorrow. Also, when you are using the part tomorrow, we are automatically going over to future tense. But you can also say that that an action that was continuing for a long time will terminate tomorrow. So of course this is a reference to the future tense, but this part of the sentence is a reference to your past perfect continuous tense. So as we have already made an indication towards the future tense, we will now go into the future tense. That is the third and the last part of our tenses, that is the future tenses. And like the past and the present tense, future tense would also be divided into 4 parts. Future tense would be simple future, that is I shall go, he will go, or she will go. Regarding the usage of shall and will, there are sometimes doubts whether we should use a shall or we should use a will. The traditional rules of grammar say that we should use a shall for the first person, and the rest, the third and the second person, could go with a will. But since generally we are moving towards a lot more uniform structure of grammar, and as we all know that language keeps on changing after a certain point of time, we can also replace this shall with will. Although the traditional rules of grammar does not say that we can use a will, but there are also other usages of shall and will which are known as modals, with which we will deal in another class. So this is the simple future tense, that is something is about to happen, that is your simple future, that is I shall go, he will go, she will go, Then comes the future continuous tense. That is, it talks about an action that will be continuing in the future. An action that will be continuing in the future. In the future. For example, you will say, I will be going there. For the usage of for the easy nature of understanding, I have kept this as will, because generally nowadays will is an accepted format, although I am again and again saying that shall was what the traditional grammar permitted. So when you say I will be going there, it means in the future you will do an action and that will be continuing. Remember, continuous tenses do not talk about ending of an action. It talks about the continuity of an action. We don't know whether the action is ending at a certain point of time or whether it is not ending, and also that is not our concern to understand. It is just that we talk about the continuity of the action. The next that would come is the future perfect tense. Okay, so the future perfect tense would talk about an action that has begun, that will begin and continue in the future and would also end in the future. Okay, so example for future continuous tense, for future perfect tense would be I will have done that. You are talking about a completion of an action which you will be doing in the future. The action hasn't yet begun. The action will begin in the future, happen in the future, and continue and probably end in the future as well. I will have done that, or I will have completed my work by tomorrow morning. I will have completed my work by tomorrow morning. In this sentence, see that this I will have done that. It talks about the entire action happening in the present, but in the second sentence what happened is I will have completed my work by tomorrow morning. It really does not make a very clear emphasis about whether the work has begun or is yet supposed to begin, but it talks about a completion which will happen in the future, and that is precisely the utility of the future perfect tense, about the completion of an action in the future. Now we come to the last of our tenses, that is the future perfect continuous. The future perfect continuous, it will take both the future as well as the perfect as well as the continuous in action. So for that we will say I will have been working for 5 years by tomorrow. So you are talking about an action that had begun and is continuing. Will have been working is your continuous 5 years, for 5 years by tomorrow. So it means that the action which had begun in the past has continued over a certain point of time and is still continuing in the future, and that is why it is a future perfect continuous. Has begun and will continue in the future. That is the precise utility. When we talk about the continuity of the action is what we are trying to refer in the continuous tense, and the perfect is because it had begun and will continue in the future. Or I will have reached there, I will have reached there by tomorrow. That is your future perfect tense. And the continuous tense is when you are talking about the continuity of the action. If you just extend that sentence and say I will have reached there by tomorrow and I will be checking into a certain hotel, so that would make it a future perfect continuous. So that is the difference between your perfect tenses and continuous tenses for all the 3 tenses. So a quick recap of what we did was that we divided all our tenses. The tenses are the precise division of the verbs that we work with, and in the verbs we are talking about all the 3 tenses, that is the present, past and the future, and all the 3 present, past and the future tenses are divided into 4 into 3, that is 12 more subdivisions. So all of them would have a simple tense, a continuous tense, a perfect tense and a perfect continuous tense. So that's all for today. Thank you and have a great day.